Guys, let's take a look at how all fire escapes are built. Every fire escape in the United States is built on this method. Nothing else is done. Basically, they're all buried into the wall 8 to 12 inches deep. That's it. They go through the veneer, and they're only buried 8 to 12 inches deep. There's no special bracket back there holding it from pulling out. They have a pocket. They filled it with cement. They stuck the steel in there. That's it. This is what it looks like when the wall starts getting in there, through the veneer, through the sills. It starts cracking everything. Here's a C-channel holding up 2 full staircases and no bracket on it. You load that with men and firemen, what happens? If it's only buried 8 to 12 inches deep into the wall. A lot of them will have the bracket, and the bracket either has a single bolt or it has a gusset on the end. The gusset is just like that gusset. You see that gusset right there, guys? That gusset is all blown out on one side. The bolt is still there, and it's got 3/4 of rust inside. Well, that's usually what I find, either there or on the bottom side of a bracket. But again, it's also buried into the wall 8 to 12 inches deep, and a lot of times the bottom one is buried into the wall, and this is what happens on the bottom one. It gets channeled water every day, so what happens to it? It rusts away. On the inside, on some buildings that are factories, you're going to see them not into the masonry wall. They're going to be through-bolted into the backside, but then the pins are so small, what do they do to the bricks?
Pull it out.
They pull them out. They push them in. You know, bricks decay. Now, these are all things that if a photograph came to you, see, inspectors give you a letter. It says the word deflection, rust, and accumulation, and growth. Everybody's got a digital camera today. Every engineer is going to give you photographs of the situation, so you don't have to go visit the site. The photographs are going to speak for themselves. And you're going to see how serious the situation is, because you're going to have a one-on-one with your structural engineer about what you're going to do about this fire escape on this particular building. In case you want to grow ferns and stuff, this is what you're doing now. It's a good place to grow fire escape ferns. This is a library in Boston. That's 1 inch of rust on that gusset. 1 inch. It only takes 50 years to grow half an inch. How many years to grow this much? Again, if you want to grow ferns or other things on fire escapes, nobody's checking. Cops ain't checking, firemen ain't checking, nobody's checking. So if you want to grow some sort of exotic ferns, fire escape. Another way that fire escapes are with legs to the ground. A lot of them have legs to the ground, usually sitting on a sono somewhere here. Now the building is a leg, the leg is a leg, and guess what you have? You have a little bridge. Okay? That's another way the fire escapes are made. And that's what these things look like. Sometimes they get smashed and they get bent. But what broke here? The masonry wall or the veneer? The veneer. Everybody thinks this is the structural. So guess what a lot of vendors fix? They only fix this. They just stick it back in there, goopy, cementy, and see you later. And your wood ones. Wood is just that. Wood must have a through bolt. Whenever you see a latch screw, it's an illegal installation. Must have a through bolt. Cantilevers. This is what a release arm looks like, guys. It's supposed to walk, 150-pound woman. By the time she comes down the stairs and she pushes through the release arm, guess what's already on the ground? The fire escape. 2 to 3 feet per second, hits the ground, stays down. This is what a release arm looks like. And it's open. And the fire escape is where?
Still up.
And what's on the back of it?
Chain.
A chain. So anywhere in your city you see a chain, is it legal or illegal?
Illegal.
It's an illegal modification. The cantilever's out of balance, and you have to walk out 5+ treads in order to counteract that, and you're going to slam the ground, and you better hold on. Smashes, crashes, trash trucks, cement trucks. This is what they do with cantilevers. They get out of balance. By the way, you know what this is called? This is called the fire escape lottery ticket. You know why? Because when a trash truck or a cement truck smashes this, Do I just fix this, or do I have to bring back the entire escape back into operational condition?
I'm doing the whole thing over.
I'm doing the whole thing over. So the trash truck guy thinks I'm just fixing the cantilever. I said, no. I have to certify the whole thing. So I tell the owner, sorry that this trash truck hit your fire escape, but this is a fire escape lottery ticket. They are going to fix your whole thing. Even though you didn't maintain it for many years, they have to repair it structurally and give it a paint job. So we tell a lot of owners that have this unfortunate occurrence, I say, dude, you got a fire escape lottery ticket here. But you didn't scratch it, somebody else scratched it for you. Staircases. Forget the tread. Sometimes the stringers that hold the whole stringer section is out of whack. So you got there's clips at the top that hold the whole stringer, and there's clips at the bottom. But every now and then the stringers, look at all the rust on the stringer. So forget about a tread giving way. The whole stringer can give way. This is a 25-story hotel in Chicago. This is rust holding a stringer. This is staircase that in the middle of the night, the tenants or the firemen can't see that.
Is this the same building?
No, this is just all over the country. Railings, clipped to or sometimes into the veneer. Grating. Two types of grating out there. The flat grating with the spacers in them. You think they painted the inside of these spacers? Once they rot inside, you think I can fix this? All right, two things you can do with grating. Swap it out, or can I put a piece of flat above, a piece of flat below, create a sandwich with some simple bolting, and create a squish, a sandwich, and basically duplicate this connection? Will that keep them from separating? What guys usually do is they come underneath it with a piece of flat and they weld every bar to the flat. But the bars have what on them? Lead. Can they weld those? Do they have a fire permit anyway to be welding over that backyard full of leaves on that wooden structure? So that's the end. You don't always have to replace the grating, but there's ways to basically, with connections, with bolts, to get it repaired. Again, these are sites and shots from all over. Even the treads have those little connectors. And sometimes we have to basically replace the tread, or we have to connect that tread back to itself so it doesn't pop off. Because as soon as you put your foot on the first nose flat and it gives way, what happens to you? You go down the stairs. You guys remember what that test we did, right? This is a elementary school in New Jersey. They're all out there. That's an inch of rust, guys. And ladders. Ladders are supposed to be just like a cantilever. Drop to the ground, hit the ground, and stay down under a balanced system. Or they can be, I believe, the lowest rung can be 7 feet. Is that what you guys normally have? It's about 7 feet. The last rung is 7 feet. You can jump to the ground. Otherwise, if you're going to make it all the way to the ground, you can, and people are breaking in, you can do fold-up ladders. You know that, right? You can put this existing ladder on a weight system so that it drops to the ground. You know what the height limit is in New Jersey? On some single families, 16 feet. You can jump 16 feet, they say. Codes are just wacky everywhere. So, but again, there's another thing people have done with their ladders, and they've taken ladders and swapped them. Here's some ladders that are typical throughout the country. You see this usually going to your attic, but they have these. It's called a 3-slide. Anybody ever seen an accordion ladder? West Coast. They basically will expand out to 25 feet. Used on every building, pretty much. That has, those 15-foot story, 15-foot mezzanine buildings and such. So it's called an accordion ladder. And you guys have the standard ladders mounted to the wall. Here's a balanced ladder, very typical down in New York and New Jersey, with a balanced weight on them. You release them, and what do? They drop 2 to 3 feet per second. If you have a release arm on a cantilever, isn't that also an anti-theft device? keeps people from breaking into your building if it's locked in. The same thing with these pins. You know, if you have a pin on it or a chain on it that is a simple device, single action requiring no special knowledge, they drop 2 to 3 feet to the ground. Ladders over to the roof. Guess who uses these? The firefighters. They have to be in perfect condition. Otherwise, these things pull off a roof. Guess who gets killed? This is those flop-out ladders, they call them. People will take existing ladders and they cut them in half and then they make the top half flop out. Guess what happens when you have a ladder swinging out and you're on the bottom end of it? Drives you into the ground like a nail. Is that legal? No. So you can't do this modification to your ladder so that it flops out and hits the ground like that. Because if you're down below as a fireman, as a child or a dog, you're going to kill that person or severely maim them. So, what are some of the things you can do? What I'd like to do now is, as I'm talking about what some of the things you can do, I'd like to have those, I put together an example of a typical starter pack that includes a confidence test, includes tags, includes the brochure, and I've used Boston as an example. So now, Boston is not accepting this. This is just for the class, the purposes of the class, I had to pick one city, so I did a Boston example. Now, you can do this yourself. You can go online and just get it from whatever association or whatever fire department or building department has it, and just put and download their PDF or their Word document, or you can just ask us through your association president to basically make a pack for you. So let me, while I'm talking about this, there's a sample of one on the back here, but it's naked. That's the one you would find on the Seattle, but it doesn't have your code on it. So I want to go over today what we've done. But this is the exact one that was sending you out as an example. So let's talk about what you can do. Boston, immediately after that Hank Phillippe Ryan thing, started saying, so please write that down. Your building department will not sign off on any permit, will not close a permit until you have a copy of the current certification of the fire escape. So are you asking for inspection? Nope. You're just asking for a copy of what should already be there, that's all. And if they don't have it, what do you kindly say to them? Need it. Just go get one and we'll close this up. That's it. So this is an awareness program. Are we violating fire escapes in your city, or are we just identifying them for now? And so permit. Now with your fire inspectors, you know how they do the smoke detector sign off? Please ask your fire inspectors when they're doing the sign off. Usually means somebody is getting in there to pay rent, somebody's getting in the building, there's an occupancy. What does he ask for to help you guys out? It's a checklist item. A copy of the permit, of the certification. And if that person at that time says, I don't have one, what does he say? He can still sign off the smoke detector thing, right? But what's he notify you guys about? That there isn't. So they're doing that now in certain cities. They're starting to work hand in hand with a checklist item. You guys are understaffed, budget cuts. You need to make this a checklist item. It's the thin one, it's the 4-page one. Okay, guys? So, start in your downtown. You start in your downtown, you got enough old buildings that are 5-story in your downtown that have not been certified in the past 25 years. Speak with your Channel 3, if you have a cable access thing, put it on your Cable 3. There's no need to change the law. Let's talk about the law. All right, guys? Everybody have one of these? Everybody have the new handout? Let's go right to the law, right? The Mass Building Code, 101.3 used to be 1028.3, and let's go to page 2. So this is the first page, and again, this is just a sample. You can do this yourself, and you can put your logo here where it says Boston, you can put your name here, or you can have us do it for you. It's your choice. But go to page 2, please. And aside from testing and certification, which is yes, no questions, you can read them at your leisure, let's talk about right here where I've put 2 codes. I've put the Mass Building Code and then NFPA 101, Life Safety Code. Let's see if they both say the same thing. Let's start off with the NFPA Life Safety Code. Under materials and strength, if ever you want to go find it. I just recently found it. We did a class 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago in Concord, New Hampshire, and I couldn't find the code until a guy in the class says, dude, you got a book there? And he goes, it's right here. And I'm like, I could never find it. That's where it was buried. I couldn't find it. And it basically says, let's see if this makes sense. The NFPA 101 says that the authority having jurisdiction, guess who that is, shall be permitted to approve any existing fire escape that has been shown by load test. And then, or other satisfactory evidence to have adequate strength. To who? Who do they have to prove this to?
Yes.
To you. Now let's take a look at the Mass Building Code. All exterior bridges. Have I mentioned fire escapes yet?
No.
Steel or wooden stairways. Have I mentioned fire escapes yet? Fire escapes and egress balconies shall be examined and or tested. What's the word test means there? Load test. And certified. So there's the other satisfactory. For structural adequacy and safety every 5 years by a Massachusetts registered professional engineer or others qualified and acceptable to the building official, who will then submit an affidavit. Is this an affidavit? This industry standard documentation, is that an affidavit? From the engineer. You don't sign this, the engineer signs this. Is this an affidavit?
It would be from him, yeah.
It would be from him, right? This is from, you don't sign these things. He signs these things to you. This is nothing but an industry standard document that already exists in fire codes. By the way, we had some great success. Just as of January 15th of this year, Portland, Oregon, everything's West Coast for some reason, just adopted all these standards into their code and became effective January 15th. So one state down, and they want confidence tests, tags, load test, or verifiable refurbishment of their fire escapes. Because they're also 100-year-old fire escapes out there too. So we were very proud of that because that was one of the classes. We've been working with them for 5 years, and they finally not only did it on the city level, they changed their state code. If anybody wants to know what that code is, we can put you in touch with the people out there that did it and what process they had to go to. They didn't change the code too much. They just added the additional language that said we need it on an official document that is industry standard, a questionnaire of some kind, and we want some tagging on the fire escapes. So that was the change that was made. We were pretty proud of that. So, guys, do the two codes pretty much say the same thing? Yeah? I'm going to show you the international code, the international building code, the international fire code, and the NFPA. They all say the same three things. So I'll show that. So that way you're never fighting anybody. The word is very simple. On every fire escape that is 75, what about a 25-year-old fire escape? We're going to get this crazy with it? Or in conversation with your engineer, he's going to make you feel comfortable about the situation? This is really for the majority of the fire escapes out there that are 50, 75, 100 years old. You want a load test or you want guaranteed certification? Go ahead.
Get the painting part of it. Painting, required painting part of it. Where do you get that?
Well, it must be maintained. In the Mass Building Code, under 101.3, 101.1 is an obstruction code, can't obstruct it. Well, I think 101.2, you must keep it maintained, which is keep it painted. 101.3 is you got to test it and certify it. Yes?
Dr. Sandwiching with ratings, isn't that a trip hazard?
You got to use usually a quarter inch is not going to be a trip hazard, but there's no other cure for it. And you have to use carriage bolts on the top so that, just to keep everything as low down to the ground as possible. Otherwise, rip the grating out and put a new grating. New galvanized grating, because everything nowadays should be new galvanized grating. So this is what we've done, and it starts with you. So if anybody wants to basically have us do the starter pack for you, call us directly, or you can speak through your president, have them call us, and we'll basically work with you. We also, again, this is all free for us to come down into your city. We'll do a 1 to 3 hour downtown walk around. So we'll meet you in your downtown, we'll just walk around, and otherwise, if you don't have time, under YouTube channel, you have Fire Escape Engineers, and you have Fire Escape Academy. We have nothing but probably about 500 videos nationwide of us doing walkarounds, and everybody saw that in the beginning. I was walking around. That was the guy from Concord. We did a class, and that afternoon he was walking around downtown with me, and we use him to train you because you don't have time for downtown. So go online. YouTube is great. It's our own personal TV station, and you use it to basically say, do you want to see what the downtowns look like? Any downtown in the U.S. is your downtown. So don't think you have anything different or special. And this is what we've done. We've done housing authorities. So in Boston, we did the housing authority over there by Chinatown. I think they're called the Metropolitan Housing Authority. We've also done Washington, D.C. We did 50 inspectors down there. We've done Portland, Oregon, New Jersey. We've done all over the country. We've done classes. This is the Tacoma one. When you read our confidence test in the Tacoma one, it's the same one. She was in the class with us. That's Sue Boxar. And same questions. It's all yes, no. No more opinions. They want a yes, no. They want some guarantees. And the best thing that they came up with also was the yearly. We love the yearly because Seattle doesn't do the yearly. So we said, you know what? So we kind of married both of them together. We think that the structural engineer is involved every 5 years, but we think the owner and all the management company is involved every year, and they walk it. Don't you walk it. You go downstairs in the alley and you say, walk the fire escape and sign this document, so they activate all the releases, they do everything, they climb out windows, they do whatever to come down the fire escape, and that'll keep them on their toes if you make them walk the fire escape and sign the yearly document.
But we can't mandate them to do that, it's not in our code to do that.
I understand that. It's strongly suggested then. Whatever word you go. I'm not here to write code. I'm just saying that you need this document that says that somebody has walked it. They say that on this document it says that the bolts are good, the paint is good, and all the moving parts and ladders are functional. When do you want to see that? They said they did it, or do you want to see it physically? So it's really like, do you want to witness? And a lot of times this is called witnessing. So I'm here to witness these three questions. This is not a structural engineer that does this one. They can get a structural engineer to do this every year, but it's the yearly touch on a fire escape. All right? This is the standard document that you get out of Boston. The only thing we don't like about it is, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, the fire escape is in accordance. I don't like it. This is where everything is. This is where everything went downhill. Is the opinion letter, the CYA, right? The other thing I don't like also, and I carry a G3 license, guys. I carry a Reg 4 out of California, and I carry a G3. I can inspect, and I can repair. And I love it when I can repair and inspect my own work, because I think all electricians, plumbers, and who else is out there that should be just like me, do their own things, inspect their own things, and never pull permits. Raise your hand, because then you guys have less things to do every day. Because we're out there looking. So I strongly suggest, and I've even written a letter to Gary Moshe. I said that in Boston, my G3 license should be to inspect, but not to repair. But if I'm going to repair it, somebody else has to sign off on my work. I strongly suggested that, that in a G3 license situation, that there should be engineer oversight, because I'm only ordered now to do one of two things: load test it or refurbish it. It needs a structural engineer, because the building inspectors don't have time to babysit me. So you need somebody that's willing to put his signature on the line, and that's a structural engineer. So that's my thing about the only area that I don't like in the G3 license is that there's a little bit of play that you can work and sign off on your own stuff, and you never pull permits, because I'm always painting a fire escape. So just remember, these fire escapes are 75 years old. Is there any more painting left on these things? Or is it more structural and or replacement coming up now? So don't let fire escapes in your city be repaired without a permit. So even when you get a certificate, a letter, an opinion letter from an engineer, send them the confidence test and say, please fill this out. And say, because it's already on the confidence test, it says, there's a spot there that says, for the permit information. It's all asking for the permit and the renovator's license and everything. So you walk backwards. Every time you get a certificate from somebody, just walk backwards. It's a little tap on the ears, a little slap on the wrist. Say, guys, thank you for the certificate. Have your engineer fill this out now. By the way, where's the permit? Oh, no permit? Okay. Who was the vendor? Let's get him in here. Have him fill out the application. Give us what? The $200, $300, $100, $900, depending on how much it is as a percentage, so that my city can have a few more bucks to buy more coffee. And let's just walk backwards. And you basically warn that guy. Say, hey, vendor, you do this again, there's no baseball here. This is strike one, the only one. Next fire escape you do in my city, you pull a permit. Mr. Engineer, thank you for the certificate, and thank you for this. And did you walk the fire escape? Did you check and read exactly what we said? It's right here on this page. It says, under the structural, 100% of all the fire escape is 100% free of all rust in the connections. Did you read that? All critical materials and connections or joints are 100% free of all internal rust or rot. You read that, right? Because you checked yes on everything else. Did you read that? Because you signed it. And you know what we want, and we tell this to all the inspectors, because your vendor gave us a 10-year warranty. Because after you look at this fire escape, and after you clean out all the rust on these connections that took 75 years to get to this point, and you clean out the connection, you prime it, you inject it with 50-year silicone, do you think it'll last 10 years? So is it unreasonable to get from every vendor a 10-year warranty? So the owner only has to keep it painted? Because as long as he keeps it painted, guess what happens to my fire escape? It will always pass. Hank Philip Ryan told you there's 8,500 fire escapes just in Boston. You give me a fire escape a day, still leaves another 8,000 and something for everybody else. There's plenty of them.
I don't know how they come up with that figure, because we had people going around trying to count them, and they couldn't find them all.
I think what it was, and the story that I heard from Boston, if you're talking about Boston, they identified with a group, this is in the 70s, 8,500 fire escapes, they put them in a file cabinet, and then it just sat there, and that's the process.
There was a special, I was there at that time, there was a special grant that was given to the city of Boston to go out and have people, unqualified people, identify
All the fire escapes.
fire escapes, and then send the inspectors, me and others, these things saying, go out and inspect them, they're not gonna pass. You know, all I wanna do is say, hey, you get a affidavit from a licensed engineer saying that that is okay, and that's all I care about.
Boston.gov, permits, search permits, other documents. What do you find? All the documents that are in there, including permits, from the jacket. Guess what you can find on Boston.gov? The last certificate given to that building. And a lot of times, those certificates are 5, 10, 15 years out of date, because they've digitized every single one. Yes.
What's the average inspection cost? I know it depends on how many and how high, but
No, good question. Every structural engineer out there will charge you anywhere from $75 to $175 an hour. He's going to take 5 to 10 hours to do every fire escape inspection on a standard 1 to 3 story kind of thing. So you do the math, and that's a structural engineer's fees. Most general iron workers who are calling themselves inspectors are charging anywhere from $100 to $500 for every one of those inspections. But a lot of them don't generate a report. It's just, it's a pass-fail, like eyeball test, but that's what you're getting. The average that we charge for inspections could be as low as $89 for a balcony and $489 for a 5-story. And that's a pass-fail report with the full photographs, with us having to speak with the owner and the inspector. And then we've gone one step. If you go to Fire Escape Engineers on YouTube, you type in Fire Escape Engineers, we do a summary review. We speak as we're on the fire escape, and then there's a slideshow right after of all the photographs you take. So that make your job a lot easier. If you have a smartphone now and say, hey, there's a fire escape we just did and it failed, you can just watch it online through the YouTube channel as to what our findings were. But you still get a full report afterward, either faxed you or emailed, because even though you guys got email, some of you can't get access to YouTube. Some of you don't have emails because you got bombarded or whatever, so we have to use snail mail or fax to get this information back to you.
and you're saying most of the states you go to, the fire department controls this?
40 out of 50 states, it's fire department. I do fire training more than I do building training. Question?
So, you guys structural engineers, so
No?
you have a structural engineer on every report that you do?
No, again, in Massachusetts, structural engineers are others acceptable to the building official, others acceptable, right? But we have structural engineers on staff, if that's your question.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just wondering, so there's no design of fire escapes in our code, so there's no code reference for each bolt and each repair, so how can you have, other than a registered engineer, do a design, do a repair design?
It's simple. When you're going, it's simple today. I don't care about any of these bolts because every one of the major structural connections has to be blown out anyway. I have to replace it with a new bolt. And here's the great thing. If I load test the fire escape today, a good fire escape, no rust in its connections, is there any liability for me after I load test it? I load tested it. Something happens after the load test. A year later, something happens on the fire escape. And I load tested it a year ago. Any liability?
You passed the day you did it, right?
Right, it load tested that day. We refurbished the whole fire escape, okay? So we didn't load test it, we refurbished 100% of all the connections, the major structural. And 1 year later, the fire escape fell. Do I have any liability? And there's a signature for an engineer, stamp on it. Do I have any liability?
Yes.
None. The bolt company does. Because I didn't fail, I did the second thing you can do by law. Load tested or the satisfactory evidence, which is a full refurb. Can I go any further other than a full replacement? So I refurbished, and we get there, we do an investigation, and one of the bolts sheared. Who are you suing? The bolt company, who has manufacturer's insurance. And we go there, oh, this is a bolt from China, whatever, and that's not but we did the only two things. So now, the word guarantee is starting to come back in, which is a load test will get you the word guarantee, and refurbishment will get you that, because now we're passing the liability onto the bolt company, as long as the work is done right and overseen.
Okay, then we can't sue you, but what about...
No, we're always going to get sued, but we can kind of tiptoe a little bit more away, and we bring in Joe Bolt Company. That's all we
How
do.
about an engineer? I mean,
No, he's going to get sued, but he did everything that the law said he had to do. So he's in the mix, but they start tiptoeing because it's really what really happened that day was on the refurbished fire escape. Some bolt sheared that should have never sheared by law or by because of whatever. So it's a design flaw that we had nothing to do. We just put in what they got. Here's the three codes. Ready, guys? We went over the testing, right? We went over the testing, and we're pretty clear, right? That shall be examined, so that's a critical
Keep it down
examination.
back there, please.
So that's a critical examination. Tested, that's a load test, so it's already in your code, man. I've never done a load test in Massachusetts, ever. I never had an engineer ask me for a load test, ever. But is it in your code? Do we have to rewrite code, or is it already here? And certified. What's the word certified means? That's another word for refurbished. So if I only want to spot paint my fire escape, what are you going to make me do? I only want to fix a couple of bolts, a couple of treads, and a couple of connections. What are you going to make me do?
Engineer.
You're going to make me test it. Anything that's spot repaired from now on must be load tested. You refurbish it, what do you avoid? In lieu, you avoid the load test because you're giving me satisfactory evidence, and that's the NFPA. The authority having jurisdiction shall be permitted to approve any existing fire escape stair that has been shown by load test or other satisfactory evidence to have adequate strength. We're putting the dirty word in your mouth now, guys. It's the word load tested or give me other satisfactory evidence to avoid this load test. Because these things are 75 years old. The three codes, 50 states use these three codes. The International Fire Code says testing and certification. I have to cut it down a little bit, right? But you go to any International Fire Code, it says this. Testing and certification. Any fire escape system found to be in a state of deterioration or unsafe shall be repaired immediately. Depending upon structural condition, a load test shall be conducted. So the word depending upon structural condition, so who do you have to satisfy not to load test it? The fire official. That's their codes. Nationwide, that's the International Fire Code that various states have adopted, and that's the exact code, 1028.6. The NFPA code, we've already done, authority having jurisdiction. Load test or other So the word load test keeps being the first word. The International Building Code, which is you guys. All exterior fire escape systems shall be examined or tested, which means spot repaired and then load tested, or certified for structural adequacy and safety, which means fully refurbished in lieu of a load test. Am I saying something wrong, or does anybody disagree where the three of them, nationwide, sort of say the same thing? Yes?
So an engineer turns around and tells you, okay, you just have to swap out, tread number, this tread, that tread, and everything else is fine, that's against the law.
No, it's not. He's not going to tell you. Your engineer needs to speak with a building inspector and tell him what the game plan is for that fire escape. Now, if that engineer is doing the wrong thing, the inspector and that engineer are going to catch each other eventually. But if you're doing it with a building permit, right, and the engineer told you to change 3 bolts and that's all I need, all of a sudden, who's the final walkthrough on the fire escape after it's been signed off by a structural engineer and it has a permit? Who's the final walkthrough? The inspector. The inspector goes there and sees work that you've done under the direction of a structural engineer who said 3 bolts and 7 things over there. And then the inspector says, what the hell is this? And the inspector pulls out what? What trump card does he pull out if there's no satisfactory evidence that has adequate strength? What does he order immediately? A load test. Or say, hey, I'm about to drop my load test card. And he goes, or, let me speak with the engineer again, have you come back, and I want every major structural connection, which means all the treads, all the supports, and all the tiebacks have to be reinforced or duplicated, or replace these bolts. And then I will avoid this load test question. Yes?
If, as building officials, we allow, in lieu of a structural engineer...
No, not in lieu of a load test. Not a structural. There's always a structural engineer. Not in lieu of a structural engineer, in lieu of a load test.
Well,
Structural engineer is always there.
okay, well, in the testing and certification in our building code, it says that we can use a registered design professional or others qualified.
Right.
What is the criteria that we should use to put those people in a column as qualified?
Perfect. Structural engineers are always qualified.
Okay, outside of that.
Architect walks in and says, I want to start making money in your city. He just comes and gives you credentials.
Yep.
Credentials is something similar to what we have here. And, as we start giving, we would have meetings, one-on-ones with you and say, hey, we'd like to be included in that. Otherwise, we have to bring in our structural engineer, which drives the cost up for every inspection. But that's okay. We have to walk you through and tell you what we do. We'd have to show you some examples of our inspection techniques. We'd have to show you our repair guidelines. We'd have to show you also you know, here's a standard repair guideline that we, way before we even fix it, we're telling you that if we're watching somebody, this is what they have to do.
So you have paperwork that makes you qualified?
Everybody, right,
So you got a bunch of paperwork?
yeah,
you qualify with
that's right.
paperwork?
Everybody acceptable to the building official, otherwise the building official always drops back to the structural guy.
Right.
But you'd say others qualified, meaning if they want to work in your city as an inspector,
Yeah.
they come in and have a sit down and say, I do this, I know this, I've been in it for 20 years, here's my stuff, you know.
What type of welding certificate should they bring to me?
Well, anybody want to answer that? Can we weld anything on fire escapes anymore? No. You don't need a welding certificate
They need
anymore.
a
You didn't need it
CSL.
before, you don't need it now because you can't even use a good
Well,
certificate
they can
now.
weld in their shop, right?
Yeah, new steel.
So they can weld in their shop?
Well, that's new fabrication.
Right, well, that could
This-
be brought
this is
out as a
only repair.
repair. Can
Huh?
you bring a whole set of stringers and
Oh.
thread, all weld it in your shop and make a connection with bolts at the top?
Right. Are you
So
going to watch it or the structural engineer going to watch that in his
I
shop?
don't know, I said in lieu of a structural.
I know.
So.
No, you
someone's
can't, you
gonna-
can never have in lieu of a structural engineer. There's always going to be a structural engineer involved. The guy that's going to watch it, whether it's being refurbished or load tested, is the structural engineer. That's what we're trying to get ahead to you. The norm right now is that somebody in the area of Boston calls a structural engineer, pays them anywhere from $200 to $600 to go there. He does a thing, he writes a letter that says the fire escape needs some maintenance, do this or that, either very good or very bad, but basically a letter. And then the owner gets this letter and he calls 5 guys to come and give a bid. He does not give them this letter. Those vendors all come out and they say, hey, I can do this from $3,000 to $13,000. Guess who the owner picks who's got a scrape and paint violation in his hands? He picks the $3,000 guy. Has he called the engineer? No. The guy who wants to do it for $3 grand does whatever he wants, and he does that. And then he quickly gets paint on it. Sometimes they paint it first, then weld it, and then touch up. It's faster that way, just in case you want to know the faster way to do it. Paint it first. Then when the guy's all done, guess who he calls? The guy who he gave $200 to $500 before and say, it's all done, can you come here and check it? Because I had a guy magically hide it with paint and silicone. And guess what the guy does? He drives down, he's got a CYA letter, and guess what he's doing on that drive-through? He drives up, thank God the fire escape is on a part of the building that he can drive up to. He rolls, no, it doesn't roll down anymore. He electrically brings, he's making money, so he electrically brings down his window, goes, hey man, that thing looks very good. Here's my CYA letter, do you have my check? It looks good. The guy goes, don't you want to walk? He goes, nah, I didn't walk it the first time. Why should I walk it the second time? I made $1 grand. I've got my CYA. You're not making me sign a confidence, a confidence letter that asks me specific questions. I'm out of here. However, there's a, go ahead.
To answer the question that you're looking for. The building's over 35,000 cubic feet.
Okay.
He's going to require the permit anyhow. He's going to have the construction control, and it's going to be the structure. So,
That's what the law says, but I'll tell you, I've done many 5 or 10-story buildings.
yeah, I know. Yeah.
I'm the guy that breaks into cars, and I'm here to tell you how not to get your car stolen. I've done it the right way. I got 40 years on this. I'm like Edison, man. I can tell you 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb. I also tell you how to make a light bulb today. But if you want to know all the wrong ways to cheat, you got a rusty hole? Man, you take some duct tape. Not even duct tape. You take some masking tape, and you just cover the hole with masking tape. Spray paint it with black, grab dirt, and you throw it at it, and it looks like rust, dude. And you cash that check. I did this for you guys to see all the wrong ways that I can still make money on a fire escape. Because I can do a hit and run on a fire escape for $3 grand, because the guy doesn't have 13 grand to do it the right way. And when he does it for 13 grand, you know how long before he fixes it again? It'll be 50 years before he fixes it again. Whereas if I hit him for 3 this year, guess what's not going to happen in 5 years? He's not going to pass. I'll hit him for 5 in those years, and then guess what's going to happen 5 years later? This is like an annuity. Fire escapes are like an annuity. If you have a list, it's an annuity. You always go back, and whatever you didn't fix is sitting there rotting. And you gotta make money constantly. Because you know who never checks your work? Building inspectors. You know what you never need? Permits. Because you guys are writing scrape and paint violations. So thank you very much. But now, children are dying. This is an elementary school, guys. They're going to the playground, recess. 2 or 3 times a day. They would go to the recess park through this fire escape. The same fire escape every year, a building inspector or a fire inspector walk through. Yes.
I've done, I don't know how many fire escape repairs, and I've been involved with several painting. I wouldn't really go after guys that paint and just do an ordinary repair. You can't get them to fix the fire escapes in the first place. The way to get this is the 5-year certification. If a guy wants to do some ordinary repairs in between that, that's his business. But the way to trigger this is to find a way, like you said, on your sign-offs, to trigger your 5 years. The other thing is this, I've called several building inspectors over the years and said, I'm repairing fire escape on such and such address. How do you want to inspect it? I've never got, I want to see it before it's painted.
Yeah, out of
I have
sight.
told the engineer, the owner's engineer, I want him to look at it before I paint it.
Yeah.
Okay, I want you to look at it before I paint it and tell me we did what you want. And I've always asked them, even when I got a scope of work, is this as a result of an engineer's report? I want the report.
Well, he's basically saying what is happening. It's the bastard child of egress. Guess what kind of attention it gets? But now that it's 75 years old, and I'll get to your question in a second, now that it's 25 years old, are we all in agreement? Can we weld ever any more fire escapes in Massachusetts? No. If they have lead on them, you can't weld them. You need a fire permit and all these things. Emergency repairs. Can I put a tread back with the bolt that was originally there? So there's your emergency repair. The same bolt that dropped is the same bolt I put back. Hold on just one second. I'm going to give it here. So we're in agreement that welding is no longer an acceptable means of repair on a fire escape that has lead. Number two, are we in agreement that the law says low test or other satisfactory means? Yeah. To who? Because he was doing your job. He was basically saying, I called here and I called there and I spoke, and it's the bastard child of egress. From now on in your city, every time a fire escape, a sprinkler system, an alarm is going to be worked on, doesn't somebody give you the courtesy and sit with you and show you a plan and open it up and tell you all the game? Fire escapes have never gotten that courtesy in 75 years. I'm telling you, all you have to do is just understand that a structural engineer will be placing a call because he's got a violation and he just wants to sit down and discuss photographs with you and what his game plan and his criteria for review and repair of that fire escape, and how he, the structural engineer, is going to watch a vendor. Not you. The only thing you're going to do is at the very end, when you go and check the permitted repairs, is check the engineer, because the engineer just signed up and says, I'm telling you, it's great. But when you do your walkthrough and you go do the final yourself and you see that there's a lot of crap still there, who are you going to blame? The vendor or the engineer for not proper oversight? An engineer. So this is just tying you guys back up. So what was your question? Then we'll go to your question.
I know mostly everybody has the same problem. It's staffing. You have 40 states having the fire department do it because they have 6 or 7 inspectors doing inspections, and most towns have 2 or 3 building inspectors.
Correct.
You know, that's what's happening. So how many inspectors are going to go out and if someone says they're painting fire escape, you're going to go out? You can't do your regular work.
Yeah, you got to make it a checklist item. By making it a checklist item that you have to pull a permit. So no matter when you get your document, you get a certificate at the end, fill in the blanks backwards. You write a violation, you have to tell the owner, as soon as you hire an engineer, have him call me before any work is done. Okay? And that engineer, what you're going to send him? You send him, you give the client this document. We've already made it for you. This was help. We got help from a state building inspector that told you generic, keep it clean, not promotional, and basically it tells what the code is and what you're looking to do. And with that checklist item, that's how it's going to help your staff. You can't remember this. It has to be checklist item.
It should be done with every department in your city, like the rental. A lot of buildings you're not in, the rental guys should have
maintenance,
a certificate of
fire,
procedure.
housing, yeah.
The housing.
And if it's not happening, just call Help Me Hank.
Help Me Hank. Yeah, just call Help Me Hank. Within 1 second, just so you know, guys, we do have, when you go to Fire Escape Academy on YouTube, the videos there show building departments. The videos there are housing departments. The videos there are fire departments. So if you have a connection in the fire department, you send them one of our videos. You don't have to send them this video. They don't want to watch your videos. They hate your guts. So you send them fire department videos. I got them from all over the country. And vice versa, when it's the property maintenance or the housing guys, the housing inspectors, you send them a housing training class because it's geared to them. Okay? So it's on Fire Escape Academy. When you go on YouTube, just type in Fire Escape Academy. About 500 videos we've done. This will be online in 30 days. So in case you retire, give up, forget, go back and watch this very same class. Okay? So, now your question, yes?
The process should be the same as a regular building, a rough and finish inspection.
Yes.
When the building inspector shows up for the rough inspection, that's when the engineer certification should be in his hand. The building inspector on the finish can see the thing's painted.
Right.
He doesn't need the engineer after, who may only look at it after it's been painted. If you force him to look at it before it's been painted, he'll pick up stuff.
I have 2 cures for this right now that are immediate, and I know they're going to work. One is, I want all electrical and plumbing and anybody else holding a license to be able to sign off on all their work and just ease the load on you guys a little bit and be just like Fire Escape guys. Not only repair them, but we can sign off on our own work. That's one of the things I'm going to fight for. And if that's not going to fly, the second thing is that I'm also looking to do nationwide is have all rent checks now collected through the fire escapes from now on. So anybody paying their rent should duct tape their rent check to the outside of the window, then call their landlord and say, hey, I have your rent check. It's outside the fire escape, and come and get it. And I don't know why you haven't been here. There's 3 months worth of checks there that you haven't picked up already. So is there a problem? You know what I'm saying? Other than that, the codes are there to support you guys. There is property maintenance codes. There's all this issue about can you touch a 1-2 family. Guys, I'm just here to tell you that the fire code, the building code, the NFPA all say the same thing. So whenever somebody's trying to dodge you and whatever, every code says the same thing. You write a violation, the first thing out of your mouth is the word what? What's the dirty word now? Come on, guys. It's like a concept. All right, the first dirty word which you've never uttered in 75 years. You write a violation, you walk outside, and you scare the crap out of them by saying the word load test or other satisfactory evidence, which means they're going to say what to you? They're going to say, huh? What's that mean? Great. For the first time, there's going to be dialogue. So you write a violation, you send them one of these forms, either electronically or they pick it up at the desk because they're going to come in screaming, and your secretary there hands them what? This document that answers every engineer's question, every vendor's question, and every painter's question, so they don't have to speak with you and you don't have to answer the phone. So write a violation and immediately attach this, or write your violations on the back of the sheet, just to save yourself a little time. But the dirty word that comes out of your mouth, you wrote a violation on a fire escape, the first word is I wanna, or other satisfactory evidence. That's it. And who's going to give you that other satisfactory evidence? Structural engineer or others that have gone out of their way to prove to you that they want to do business in your city. Otherwise, structural engineers. Confidence tests, you can get them right online or we'll do them for you. The yearly.
In the back.
We're at the
Keep it
tail.
down.
What time is it now? Just so I can. Just before 12. Very good. I'm just now this is the quick quiz for you guys. Ready? This is just something that just came out of, we did a class up in Lowell. They're sending this letter out with the next tax bill. And you know what it says? We're starting to identify fire escapes. We're not inspecting fire escapes. We're starting to identify all the fire escapes in Lowell. So this is going out with a letter that says we'd like you to be aware that we are now taking attention to the fire escape. So if you want to copy this letter, we can always send it to you. This is what a letter looks like. If you wrote a violation to me, I will send you this letter. I'm going to ask you to tell me, do you want a load test? Do you want refurbishment? Or you want spot repairs in a load test? You tell me, because I'm going to tell you what documentation you're going to get. This is me to you saying you wrote a violation. What do you want? Because I need to get my liability. Because if you just want spot repairs and a load test, or you want a load test, or you want refurbishment, I need you to acknowledge. So this is how I prove to you that we know this is what you're going to get if you use if the client uses us. We're also going to be talking about repairs and guidelines. Let me just go back one. Repairs and guidelines. This is what we would tell you, and it's easy. If I'm fixing a tread, 100% of rust removal. I'm fixing a support, 100% of rust removal. I'm fixing rails, 100% of, pretty easy. But in case you want to get a standard, you got a guy out there that's doing repairs in your area and he doesn't have a standard, read this. It's in your book. It's a standard of how to fix everything on a fire escape. And you know what the first word is? Remove 100% of a connection, then prime it, bolt it, seal it, paint it. So pretty standard. This is one of our typical confidence tests that we do. This is a pass-fail. And this is supporting photos that say it's crap. This is our tag. It's a yellow. Oh, you guys will like this. Ready? How many like the Rutgers slide pole?
Oh, I know it's great.
Anybody ever hear of a slidescape?
Yes. I've actually heard of that.
You've heard of them, huh?
I have.
In Elizabeth, New Jersey, here's a 12-story slidescape.
Oh, my God.
And this is me and the fire official from Elizabeth, and this is on the roof. But every floor has these two little red doors. And so right here is a slide, no lights. You jump into this cabin, and you slide all the way down 12 stories. And at the very bottom, it hooks left, and it goes down at a 45, and your feet smash into an iron door that flings open. And this is a Art Deco building, 1900s. An acceptable means of egress was a slidescape. So that's the pit. Great story. What they did is the guy who used to be one of the firemen says his grandfather used to be the maintenance guy there, and the kids, as part of their initiation at the local parochial school, they would have to break in there and slide down the escape and get away with it. And every year there would be the routine of all that crap, and he says his grandfather finally got sick of it. He basically, the building was heated with coal. He got coal dust, and he sprinkled it all the floors. And every now and then he just kept looking for kids that had the white uniforms and thing, and they were all just in black coal dust. That's the kids you knew that were, you
Yeah,
know.
but you see, that was a forefront of the nylon side.
Yeah. And this is still acceptable today. This is their means of egress today. This building's still an active building. Elizabeth, New Jersey. That's a 12-story dinosaur. Again, some of the documentation we talked about. Whoever wants to inspect in your city or repair in your city, each inspector or vendor should qualify themselves with you so that you don't have landscapers fixing fire escapes. And believe me, they're out there. They're going to show you, the engineers got to show you some evidence, and today, with today's digital technology, it's all there. You don't have to go visit, they can bring the pictures to you. This is the industry standard of what white should look like. Tags, confidence tests. This is what a tag looks like on a fire escape. 7 to 10 feet off the ground, permanently attached, wrapped in plastic. It's sealed in, what do you call the...
Laminated?
Laminated. You guys like this? This was with the help, we came out of another class just like this, and we were trying to figure out a way, and the state official said, dude, if it's a... Fire Escape Academy Inspector Training. We're here in Concord, New Hampshire. We got Ken, the fire official. Yeah. Last name?
Keel.
Keel. And he was just in a class today that we did at the Fire Academy. And now we're going to be basically doing what's called a downtown walk-around. We're on the back of South Main, I believe. And,
It's actually North Main.
we're in the back of North Main, and this is the back, and we're looking at a fire escape. So if you want to look at this, you got taught a class. Fire escapes rot from the inside out or the outside in?
Inside out.
So you're looking at this fire escape, and somebody has let it rot and rust 100%, right? That one and this one.
Oh yeah.
So does that in any way compromise any and all connections?
Oh, probably all or
All
majority
of
of them.
Who's going to tell you which ones are good?
Oh, an engineer.
An engineer. So now, with that, we also have a great thing to talk about is, does it look like it has a nice catwalk system up there? It looks like it was Mickey Mouse, some sort of, does it look like it has a walkway up there made of steel?
Well, you're talking about on
The
this
rooftop,
little
because it looks like
section?
it's a staircase to a roof,
Yeah,
or it looks
kind
like it
of
got
a-
Mickey Mouse up there.
Kind of a deck with some kind of rickshaw railings
So
and so forth.
That's questionable. And then now let's take a look at it. As we get closer, and we're going to concentrate from down here. Can you see any evidence of maintenance? This is a 50 to 75-year-old structure. Do you see any evidence of maintenance?
No.
Any shiny new bolts?
No.
So 50 to 75 years, never a change of one bolt.
Doesn't
Is that,
appear.
is that possible?
That's possible. Yeah.
No, is that something that you would expect to be seeing on buildings, or do you expect to see every 25 years, every 50 years, some changes of bolts?
No, I think most people, with the fire escapes, they're out of sight, they're out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind. So now if we get closer to it, and I told you in the class, I said, rivets are 100-year-old plus minus. So it's 75 to 100, and square heads are usually, 50 to 75. What do we have here?
Well, there's a lot of square here. There are some hexes on some of
Great.
these.
So it looks like they came in and they changed out some bolts.
Looks like some bolts have been changed here because now we're riveted up
We're
there.
back to rivets. That's great. So now let's take a look at this. Let's do some investigation. So we have rivets. We have squares. Does it continue to the ground?
No.
Is it legal?
I think it's within 8 feet of the ground, I believe.
If you have within 8 feet, so people can actually jump,
Right.
is one of your local codes. So you have to double check. Usually it must be continuous to the ground. I would see that normally these get removed for a reason. There was either a cantilever here, or because people were breaking in, they would do this. They would remove this section and just call it a day, but nobody knows. But usually all fire escapes of this size building are continuous to the ground and there is no jump off. Do you see any rust here? This is a good spot right here. You want to get down here, Gary? Look on this side. Look inside this connection and look into the back, and what do you see there?
Oh yeah, you can see the rust is spreading the metal here.
Perfect. How about in the back side? You step back, go here. How about on this side? Come in this side and put your finger in there and see what you see there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we've got a lot of rust
So
inside.
a lot of rust. Let's see if we can find anything that's tying back into the building. This gusset plate is showing some expansion from above. You can sort of feel where the rust is getting in there. And who tells you whether these things are good or bad?
It would be the engineer.
The structural engineer or the fire escape engineer.
Yep.
You see a hole there in the wall there. Do you think any water's getting in there and rusting out that tie back into the building?
Oh, I'm sure there is.
This other one looks pretty tight, but look at that one, it's wide open. So just through natural freeze and thaw, through natural moisture, what's it doing inside? Do you have any pictures, or who would verify that for you?
Oh, you'd have to have the engineer verify.
Verify by opening it up, take out some bricks and opening it up, or what's a better way for you now?
Oh, you can just extend out to one side or the other and put a new support in with
So
new epoxy
duplicate
bolts.
it, no epoxy bolts, keep the originals, seal them up, and give me new connections, and you eliminate the need to verify them, correct?
Right.
And you also start eliminating the need for load test.
Yep.
Now, there's on this fire escape, after you get all the rust out and after you do all the cleaning, what's the couple of ways that you get guarantees from this?
Guarantees?
Yeah.
Well, you're going to have to, either basically refurbish or
That's one way.
or load test.
No other ways, is there? Can I spot repair it and load test it?
You can spot repair and load test.
Okay. Otherwise, to eliminate the costly load test on such a structure, what's the only thing that will satisfy you on such an old structure?
Well, you're gonna have to refurbish.
Refurbish. Let's take a look at this fire escape, and then we can peek up looking at this one some more. What's happening here? What's this starting to show you?
Oh, lots of rust on these on these steps.
So,
and it's actually rusted through at the bottom.
So do fire escapes rust from the outside in or the inside out?
Inside out.
So is this showing this much rust? You're expecting worse underneath, right?
I would imagine
a lot of
so,
these
yeah.
get salt and sand. And what happens with that salt and sand when you add moisture, such as water and ice and snow?
It eats metal.
So let's go below this, because this is not a very old fire escape, believe it or not. It's not that old. But when we come underneath here, what do we start to see? Now, your code, the NFPA says you have to be satisfied that there's strength here. Are you satisfied that there's strength here, or is some of this connection suspect? Especially when you look up there, you got all the rusty tiers coming down?
Yep, you've got a lot of suspect here.
Okay, so all you need right now is a structural engineer to come in and spot repair it and fully load test it, or you can have that structural engineer basically refurbish this, replace certain components that are rotted away, seal up this thing, and sometimes on these you can actually put the rubber, that outside rubber, to stop the water from getting to the steel, but still give people the traction they need to get out of here.
Right, because that's another thing that's required is your tread has to be non-slip.
Let's take a look at these fire escapes here, because do you have any question about the rest of the fire escape going up, or is it all?
I would classify it all the same as this.
Yes. Even though they did some spot repair here and there, you basically can identify all the way up that it's all original hardware. The gussets are all original hardware. And if you zoom up there, Gary, to this particular platform, you can zoom in on all the original gussets and all the original rivets and stuff like that. So, and this one over here also has a cover too, so, but that doesn't have, the wind still blows in sideways and does its thing. So let's take a peek at that one down there, because that is a fire escape that doesn't come to the ground, and it looks like it has some damage. So right from here, you see the lower platform?
Yeah,
And it's damaged by a truck.
it looks like it has
Yeah?
been.
So when it's damaged by a truck, is that a standard repair or is that life safety?
Would be life safety.
So we don't know if this is an active building or not, but you'll tell us. But the fact that a truck hit it has basically compromised the entire structure, not only for the tenants inside, but should your fireman ever choose to use this to help in any situation here. So let's see how bad the damage was. And by the way, are you aware that before you can return anything to service, you must fix the entire system? You can't just fix one thing, you have to certify. So this is actually what's called the fire escape lottery ticket, meaning if they know what truck hit it, they get it fixed for free. If they don't know what truck hit it, they have insurance for hit and run, so they get it fixed. So this is not really can they afford to fix it. The insurance is going to fix it anyway because we have a life safety issue here. So look how severe the damage was on here. And is this a supported bracket or a supported platform or supported stairs in any way?
Well, it definitely supports that platform.
But is it supported now?
Not very well.
So this is a life safety issue. This is a red.
Of course.
Look at all the cement issues that got smashed away. Now, with that said, if this wasn't an issue for us, now we step back and say, okay, let's look at this as just a regular structure that you walked under. Must be kept painted, must be structurally sound.
Yeah.
Is it painted?
Oh no.
To let this much rust, to eat up all your paint, how many years of neglect?
I'm trying to remember what you said.
25?
25,
At least 25 years, right? Any original, we're looking for original hardware or change or evidence of maintenance. Any shiny bolts anywhere.
No, it looks like rivets.
Rivets, which means it's an older.
Square bolts.
Some squares up on the tops, yeah.
Yeah.
And the tie-ins are metal with the rivets. So, and tell me a little bit about in class. You learned about all these rusty tiers coming down. What's this an indication? This much rusty tiers, or we call it also dragon tiers.
Right. That indicates that where the support enters the building, it's rusting inside the wall.
And it has to
behind the facade.
Behind the facade, and basically it's leaking out and proving to you that the connections into the wall. Suspect or not?
Oh yeah. Very.
Right. So with all that being said, now here you have a structure that somebody will come in here. If you wrote a scrape and paint violation, guess what they would do to this fire escape before you showed up again?
They paint.
So you write a violation that says what words?
It needs
Repair?
repaired, painted, and tested.
Tested. And when somebody calls you up and says, "Hey Ken, what do you mean by repair?"
Well, when the engineer identifies the areas that need repaired on his report, that's what
Okay. What do you mean by paint?
it means. That all of the metal has to be painted and all of the joints.
As per the
sealed.
EPA guidelines. So if you have lead on this, is another issue.
Right.
Make sure you don't let any of that paint chips get back into the building.
That's
What's
correct.
test mean?
Why load test?
So you, after I repair it, you still want me to load test it?
I do, unless the whole unit has been refurbished.
Ah, so if I refurbish this fire escape, this is not too big of a thing. So you want me to change every tread bolt,
Right.
every support rivet,
Right.
every rail connection, major connections only,
Right.
and then the tiebacks into the building. I gotta repack the ones that are there, but then next to it, you want me to put an epoxy bolt or duplicate of it.
Right.
I don't have to load test.
No.
So that crazy money I would spend on load test, you say I could spend it on the fire escape and actually use it to repair and paint it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. After I refurbish my fire escape, when's the next time you're gonna ask me for a load test?
Probably about was it 5 years?
That's
it's
the-
every 5 years for existing.
Right, but it's every 25 years. If you refurbish, on average, most people will not ask for a load test for another 25 years.
Right.
And then it's at the consideration of the inspector. Who do I have to satisfy? Even 25 years from now, whether or not a load test should be ordered. Who do I have to satisfy?
As far as it would be the AHJ.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So right now you're looking at a fire escape that has some life safety issues, and let me show you one thing that you're gonna love, because somebody came in here, and this thing's been hit several times before. So now, take a look at that one, and do you have evidence that shows it's been through bolted? and that something's coming out of the building and picking up the angles. You see underneath there that rod that came out of the building? In that corner.
Almost looks like a pipe.
Yes, but it comes on, there's a nut on it. So come over here. You see the nut on this side? So it's a bolt that comes from inside the building, picking up the masonry. And see that nut?
Yep.
Comes out and then L's out, and there's the nut right there, right?
Yeah.
And the other side has the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's a traditional old through bolt system, right? Now, this thing's been hit a few times. This is a brand new angle that was put here because it's been hit so many times. Can you tell me whether this angle that was put here is through bolted?
It doesn't look like it. It looks like they've had studs
Yeah,
installed.
Yeah, they put in what's called expansion anchors. Are expansion anchors acceptable?
No.
So this one is incorrectly installed because it's been hit several times before.
Right.
What about the other one? Is it properly installed?
It looks like lag bolts.
Right. So is lag bolts acceptable?
Nope.
Nope. And if you look over here, if you look straight up, what's left of that pin, the pin that looked like the other one,
Right.
it looks like it's sheared right at the building wall.
Yes, it does.
Okay?
Yeah.
So this whole platform now, is it safe for tenants or your firemen to hang out and have a smoke?
Oh no.
So we got a life safety issue here.
Yeah.
Okay? So these are the kind of things, but the only one thing that's a good thing here is that this is not a fire escape that you found that had problems like that one. This is one that has problems and got hit by something, which means an insurance company will resolve this matter for either no money because they say it was a trash truck, the waste management truck, we know exactly what license number and everything was.
Right.
Or it was a hit and run and my insurance company with a $2,000 deductible or a $5,000 deductible is gonna fix this fire escape.
Right.
It still gets fixed on the fact that it got hit. Because now I have to refurbish, and this is a great thing. Do I just fix this under my insurance, or in order to bring it back into
Well,
operation?
You have to do the whole system.
And your requirement here is low tested or full refurb.
Right.
So for this one hit, what's he going to get done?
Refurbished.
It's going to get refurbished, and who pays for it?
Probably their insurance.
Their
if they
insurance
have
company.
Insurance.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So Fire Escape Academy Inspector Training. We're here in Concord, and we're going to go now look at a couple of fire escapes on there.
Okay.
Talk to me about this. You get a lot of these light wells, they call them.
Yeah.
You know, these are similar to fire escapes. They use grading, similar to fire escapes.
Yeah.
Do you know how they sit up here? And when you look down, how many feet drop? 8 to 10?
Yeah, it's on just on the angle
It's on an
there,
angle,
which anchors into the building, probably the same way as our.
Okay, correct. And this side too is an angle clip, right?
Yeah.
All rotten. Now, if I'm standing here and this gives way,
You're awful brave.
right? But this thing comes down and lands on this. So does this need to be 100 pounds per square foot?
It would have to be the same. Yeah.
So who needs to guarantee this?
Who?
Yeah,
The engineer.
The engineer needs to inspect these. How about this one over here? Same thing. Who guarantees that this is in good order? And this is only a 3-foot drop, but who guarantees this?
Would be the engineer also.
The engineer, okay?
Yeah.
So, and then you get these. But if I'm gonna step on these things, who guarantees that somebody can step on these things? Because if I'm fighting a fire, doing anything,
Yeah.
I'm either standing on ground or I'm standing on something that's a bridge, a balcony, or a pedestal.
Yeah.
Who guarantees the pedestals?
It would have to be the engineer.
Correct, so this whole area gets inspected.
Yeah.
And needs to be part of the inspection. Under a Fire Escape Academy, or Fire Escape inspection, critical examination, everything is looked at, including going to the roof, including going to that ladder.
Yeah.
Okay?
I was just admiring the very old sign.
Sprinkler alarm, call fire department. Yeah. Some of those things, you find those on the, if you ever watch that show, Spallin? You got evidence of Meneses? Now flip it around, Gary, and what we got here. So it does work, right? But this one, if this was working properly, it'd be like this. Obviously, these are supposed to be 12 to 15 feet off the ground, 12 to 14 actually.
Right.
And when you release, this is what occurs. When you release it, this
That's supposed to go
drops
down.
by itself 2 to 3 feet per second.
Yeah, and it doesn't.
But it's not, it's out of balance.
Yeah.
So, but with that, it's a great case for us to study.
And you're open here.
Yeah, water's being driven every day inside here, and
And you got a lot of rust building up
And
right
are you starting to see cracking? You know,
yeah.
some water getting in here and causing some rust jacking?
Yep,
See the rust that's growing in here, growing in here?
yep.
Look at all your treads, all rivets. Okay? All original hardware. Square head bolts up at the very top. So, a lot of times, you know, if this was like that, you know, you wouldn't see it. But that's how simple it is. A single action requiring no special knowledge.
Yep.
You'll just run right through it.
Yep.
That ladder to the roof is for you, not for anybody else. Cement and spalling. And you got two options here. Low test it,
Yep.
spot repair and low test it,
Yep.
or full refurbishment on something that is just old. If this thing was 20 years old only, you and your engineer would probably come up with a plan that says, you know what, I'm okay. You like the strength? You got something to prove to me that the strength is good and there's no rust in any of the connections? Let's let it go for another 5. I'll see you in 5 more years.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're touching things that are at least 50, but on average are 75 plus years old,
Yep.
and it's just old. And if any of these bolts that we refurbish give us problems, you know, years from now, who do we sue?
The manufacturer of the bolt.
The manufacturer of the bolt. Who carries liability insurance for that, don't they?
Well, they do.
Yeah, and if there's an epoxy bolt that fails, who gets sued?
Same.
Same company. Only if I improperly install it or improperly install a bolt, but otherwise, if it's properly installed bolts on the treads, properly installed epoxy bolts into the wall, and there's a failure of any kind, the people in the building have somebody to go after. But not the city, not the inspector, and not the owner. Okay? So, must be structurally sound, must be kept painted.
The paint on this one,
Not to
not too bad for some of the other ones we've seen.
Yeah, this one, and a lot of times it's because it's tucked into this little corner. It doesn't get the constant rain, the constant wind.
Yeah.
But this one's doing better than that side.
one. Yeah, that side.
Which side? Which side's the yellow? Which side's the red?
This would be the yellow, that would be the red.
And what's the main reason?
The step and the
release arm
release arm.
is in the correct area.
And then
And-
the weight.
Is out,
the
it's
counter-
falling.
the
It looks like it wants to
counterweight-
fall off,
The counterweight is in too good shape there.
right? 'Cause that falls, that's gonna crush somebody.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Number 2, and you brought up a good point. Is that where a release arm is supposed to be?
No.
It doesn't make any sense because even if I try to put it where it is right now, there's so much pressure at the pivot point, you can never have a release arm right here. It makes no sense because as I come down the stair, that release arm has to be where this one is. It has to be at the beginning of the stair because I need to catch my weight here. I can't catch my weight somewhere in here like that one's doing.
Yeah.
And that one is ripped. Meaning that release arm that somebody kind of built in and shoehorned in here, it's broken.
Yeah.
It's right here.
Yeah.
Look at it.
It's caught underneath right there.
Yeah, but it's actually backwards. If you look at it, it's weird. It's at so close to the pivot point that it's actually non-functional. You can't do anything with a release arm that close to the pivot.
No, it's usually towards the back.
Yeah, because it'll rip it. It'll bend it, rip it, it'll do whatever has to be done.
Yeah. Kind of cool, huh?
You learn something new every day. Brothers and sisters here. So, Fire Escape Academy Inspector Training video. People were sick and tired of coming in here because of the snow. They start dropping extra weight on it. Let's see how heavy it is.
Yeah, here it goes.
How far, you try to lift that yourself, and tell me how far you think I'd have to go out to counteract that balance.
Probably about four or five
4?
steps, maybe 5.
I have to come way out, you know, to make this thing come down. Now, I've got broken treads. I've got damage. Broken tread damage there.
Yeah, because
I got rust.
it's hitting the support there because
Exactly.
it's angled up so high.
Yeah, it just snapped it,
Yeah.
because that's what was probably keeping it. Now take a look at here. What's happening here?
Pulling apart.
So this weight, come back here and take a look here. if this weight was ever to let go, look at this. Tear, rusty tears, ice jacking, rust jacking. Original hardware, no. And it has a release arm. Is that release arm all busted up? And the top of it, when you come down that stair, and this, I believe, is a bank, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I come running out, do you think that thing will poke me in the legs?
Oh, I'm sure it will.
Did you need some help?
No, I'm
Oh, I got it.
Fire Escape Academy Inspector Training Videos. We're here in Concord, New Hampshire. Just finished teaching a class. We got Ken here with us. And this one's got a nice release arm. So they do exist.
They do.
They're real.
Yes, this one actually
They mean
has
something.
one. This one actually has
And
one.
this is, as you can see on that, this is a weight that stops people from breaking in. So if I wanted to throw something up here or get my buddy up here and pull this down, will that release arm let me?
No.
So you basically got a anti-theft device in here. But with that being said, original hardware or evidence of maintenance?
Looks pretty much original.
All right, so you got a 50 to 75-year-old fire escape, all original. Okay, and you're looking for evidence of maintenance, rust growth.
Looks like maybe a few of couple of those bolts going into the wall
Yeah.
there have been replaced.
Reinforced to get it tightened back in there. So some minor spotting, but as far as the major structural, any evidence of maintenance. And let's look up there. Is these welded connections? Look right here. It's a perfect example of an all welded angle. And you say, Cisco, come over here and give me a guarantee on this. All right, so I come in here and inspect it for you. What's my only way to load test this frame over here?
X-ray.
X-ray, big heavy machinery, lots of money.
No.
Not feasible, right?
No.
So the other one is to load test it. I can just load test it right off the bat.
You could.
Okay, that's costly.
Yeah.
But and it's all welded, right? And they look pretty good still, right? That looks like a guy that knew what he was doing welded that. Is that your layman's interpretation of that right now?
Yeah. It looks,
But you still
like
ask.
it looks like a decent bead.
Yeah, and you're looking for me to sign off on it though,
Yeah.
and I will. As soon as I pop a bolt there, and I pop a bolt there, I'm going to be very happy to sign off a confidence test for you.
Yeah.
So I'll load test it, or I'll put bolts in it and sign off on it.
Yeah.
There's your two guarantees. Anything else you want an opinion letter, or I won't give it. Why don't you let me allow a big disclaimer? And my disclaimer says I won't pay for it, but the city or the owner will pay for it if anything happens. That's my disclaimer.
Yeah.
So now let's look up at the rest of the fire escape, and what do you see?
Well, it's starting to get a little bit of rust here on it, so it definitely needs some painting. And,
Yep, and whenever you get a silver fire escape, they show all the rust very well. But do you see any major rust in the tread connections? Major, like, blatant. Yeah, you don't see any major stuff, right?
I don't see any major
So would
stuff.
this be a red or yellow fire escape for you?
Yeah, probably yellow.
Yeah. And get the owner to get going on this, and have an engineer tell you what's the real status, because he's going to do an investigation that's critical examination.
Yeah.
But this is a yellow, so you would leave here with a yellow tag on this thing.
Right. Now let me ask you a quick question. See what was the term you used?
Call them either dragon tears or rusty tears.
Yeah.
So yeah, you obviously are showing that this building is showing heavy oxidization from the fact that water is getting into your building, getting behind the veneer, has no place to go but out, and it comes out in tears and shows you signs that you in the past will never know that's a sign for you.
Yeah.
Now you get all these signs that say that the connections into these buildings minimally got to be duplicated, because you've got severe evidence that says the fire escape is in question.
You're not going up there, neither am I. Hi, Rick. How are you? I'm good, buddy. How you doing? Working hard?
So now you also see
Good for you.
that the weight doesn't have a release arm. It's out of balance, and they've put extra weight on the back so that the thing doesn't drop. There's no release. They have to go up 5 stairs enough for it to drop. He's also notified that basically Susan is up front, Dan is in the back, so that thing will never come down anyway. It is an active building, all the lights are on. So somebody's gonna lose their parking space after you get done with it. All original hardware, nothing but rivets. And when you get underneath here, Dan,
Do I have to?
then you see evidence of rust on every tread. Yeah? And because it's rivets, how much room do we have on rivets before it gives way?
About 3/8.
Yeah. And only a quarter of it, because that 3/8 goes through a 1/4 inch flat before it gets to the tread and had its tail smashed to make the back end of it. So some of these treads ready to give way in your estimation?
I am sure.
So this is if you look up, you see any treads that are kind of bigger, you know, sort of in the middle here. You see one of those treads ready to give way there.
Oh yeah. Well, you can see a lot of the rust down underneath the
Rusty tiers. Straight up to the roof ladder. What's the biggest problem with the roof ladder? Who are those for?
maintenance folks. Or fire.
Never a maintenance guy. Maintenance guy will never use that ladder. But the fireman will use it to pop a hole in the roof. Watch out, Gary, someone's trying to get by. So, these are the things, and it's been rusting pretty much for a good 25 years. So this fire escape is, every connection is compromised. And again, we have the problem. Spot repair, if you want, and give me a load test, or full refurbishment in lieu of a load test. But every one of these connections into the wall needs a new connection, a new epoxy bolt or a new through bolt. Right? And this is something you've been seeing. So is this a yellow or a red in your estimation?
Well, I think everyone would think that.
Well, not everyone's going to always go red, but you always find things that are a life safety issue. The fact that you know always a car parks underneath here, what does that do? It starts pushing it towards red. The fact that you see treads with huge expansion that is ready to let something drop, it starts getting it near red, you know what I'm saying? But you'll find plenty of ones that the treads are already dangling. It's already red. But again, it's the awareness. You know, at least let us identify these during your pre-plans as whether or not they're, so that the fire truck driving down here, there's a list that the guy says, hey, everybody on the truck, everybody. It's a red. Nobody on the fire escapes. But ideally, in the middle of the night, there's a white tag on there. The thing is beautiful. You release it, it drops to the ground, no obstructions. And the firemen are crawling up and down, smashing in windows, getting in here and fighting this fire, nice and quick. The main truck that has the ladder on it is 3 minutes away, 5 minutes away. Guys are already inside fighting this fire. That's what the tag system is going to do for you on this one. All right? But so far so good. You learned a lot, and a lot of that class came from, like I mentioned before, you already know this stuff. You know, it's common sense stuff, and now that you heard it and it got explained to you, I really didn't teach you too much, more than you already knew from common sense. You dealt with bolts, you dealt in the Navy, you put things together, you took things apart. This is all common sense stuff. This is a rector set, nuts and bolts. But sometimes we think it's a bigger animal than it really is, and it never is. It's simple. 97% of it is outside the building, 3% of it is buried in the building, and we got answers for all three. But we want some guarantees. Load test it? Full refurbishment in lieu of a load test. You want something in between that? Do it, but give me a load test anyway.
There you go.
So there's your two options. No opinion letters anymore, correct?
No.
Who built it? Those are hard to find. I'm going to start collecting those signs. So Fire Escape Academy Inspector Training. We're here in Concord, New Hampshire. We just did a Fire Escape Seminar, and we're here watching fire escapes. We got Ken here, one of the inspectors, one of the fire officials for the city of Concord, New Hampshire. So, must be structurally sound, must be kept painted, and you have to be able to...
I'm looking at that.
I mean, what is it? Is it for the hammer? You know, can we bring it down? Let's look for a release arm. It's got a release arm. See that release arm? And
I do, but...
Is it functioning? No.
It doesn't look like it. It's got caution tape on.
It's not resting. It doesn't want to go up. But even if it could, so now you have a problem. And that is a lot of times, you know, how far up can they come? And they can't. I mean, aside from blocking violations, I don't know if there's a parking thing, but you're literally going to lose 2 parking spaces here, or make this small compact car only. And a lot of times it's a bollard. And that bollard needs to be right here. One bollard in the back of this one bollard, and this is like almost a motorcycle place only.
Yeah.
And or these two could be a sidecar, a side version of a car this way. But you can't block the way they doing it here. They're blocking the door. Look at this situation. This blocks, so with that being the case, we already have one piece that we need to discuss here with the building. So, but let's step back and ask, must it get painted? How long has this been not painted in your estimation?
Well, like you said in the class, you know, if the exterior of the metal is pretty much all rusty, it's probably at least 25 years.
Correct. Original hardware now, let's talk about that.
It looks like they've replaced some bolts on a few of the steps.
Otherwise, what do we got?
But pretty much all original.
All original. So this structure, which is 50, 75, possibly 100 years old, they've changed the windows. They've changed the windows. They've probably done something to the roof. Have they, in your estimation, have they spent one nickel in maintenance on this fire escape?
Looks like very little, if anything.
Right.
In a long time.
This came in after. This looks like a new construction to hold that pivot. It looked like that pivot was not properly supported, and they weren't sure, so they built this contraption underneath it. But when you look at the gussets, you know what I'm saying? When you start looking at what's holding this thing up, it's all original hardware. Look at all these connections, square head bolts. When you look behind here, what do you got?
Oh yeah, you got a lot of rust.
A lot of rust in here. So who's going to tell you whether this is good or bad?
Oh, we're going to get an engineer to do that.
So that structural engineer or that fire escape engineer is going to come in here and satisfy you, because if he doesn't satisfy you, what do you want done on this thing? If somebody says, I'm just going to spot repair it, I'm just going to paint it and call it a day.
Then you have to get a load test.
Then I want a load test, right? And you want to be here for that load test?
Well, how about over there?
Over there, a little bit away. Because you got.
Behind you, Ken.
So on each platform, just to give you an example, Ken, is that 3 feet out? And is that 40 feet long, plus minus? Just that platform there.
Yeah.
3 feet out, 40 feet long. 4 times 3 is 12. I mean, 40 times 3 is 120. 120 times 120 square feet times 100 pounds per square feet. It means I need to put up to 12,000 pounds. You know what 12,000 pounds looks like on this building when it passes?
Well, that vehicle and this vehicle.
No, that's when it fails.
Oh.
That's what happens when it does fail. But 12,000 pounds, I got to put it on there and wait, and then I got to move 12,000 pounds to the next platform, and then I got to move 12,000 pounds to the next platform. It's actually more because I'm only counting 40 feet. Then when I'm all done with that, Ken, I got to load all the treads. The entire staircase is a calculation of so many thousands of pounds. You know how long that takes?
Long time.
Long time. I got to move weights around. Does that buy any bolt or buy any paint for this client?
Oh yeah.
No, load test. Does it buy any bolts or any paint?
Oh, the load test? No.
So it's kind of a waste of money.
It is.
They should use that for refurbishment. But should they go into the point where they say, no, I'm just going to spot repair a few things. What do you want after that? So refurbishment is the only thing that's going to make you happy, right?
Well, that's probably the best option for you.
Is there any other option that, I mean, you went into class. Let's see if we can come up with another option.
Well, it's either,
you want an opinion letter?
No, it's either load test or...
Which is a guarantee.
Right. Or
a load test.
Or refurbish.
Refurbish is another guarantee, isn't it? Because if we refurbish and put all these brand new bolts and all these connectors into the building from Hilti, and something horribly goes wrong, who do we sue? You go after the bolt company. So in a load test, they can't sue me, the engineer. They can't sue you, the city. They can't sue the owner, because they did everything feasible that can be done. But then in a refurbishment, we've done everything feasibly that can be done. Can you do anything else other than change all the bolts and then duplicate the connections back into the building? So that's another guarantee in lieu of a load test. Anything else you can come up with? No. So that's it.
That's about it.
That's about it, because you're trying to limit the liability for the city.
Of course.
And the code is very clear. Load tested, it starts with load test. It doesn't start with repair it and maybe a load test. It says, you satisfy me because you did a load test, or you gave me other satisfactory reason that the material strength of the fire escape is good.
Yeah.
So Some of them, they've been giving you for 75 years, in lieu of a load test, they've been giving you opinion letters. Is that any longer acceptable by you?
No, I mean, the code doesn't allow for opinion.
No, but they have been for 75 years.
Well, they
You look
haven't
at-
given them.
They may be in the jacket. You may find in the jacket a letter from a structural engineer that says, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, a single-page document. This fire escape is structurally sound and has been kept painted. That's called an opinion letter.
Right.
Will you accept those anymore?
Well, no.
Especially on this fire escape that's old.
Well, yeah, this one's very old. That's
So load test it or refurbish it.
yeah.
Let's walk down here. There's another one right down here.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it looks like it's in the same condition. So can not that you want to, but can you inspect these fire escapes from your vehicle by rolling down the window and write violations on them?
No.
Oh, okay, I'm missing something.
Is this an active building to your knowledge? Yep. Is this a life safety issue?
They have two, I know in this building, they have 2 separate staircases internally.
Okay. So let's talk about that. That does happen. Somebody comes in and says, "Man, I'm going to make $1 million off this building. I'm going to gut the inside. I'm going to make some apartments. I'm going to give you what you need: sprinkler systems, alarms, smokes, and 2 internal stairs."
Right.
And why is this still here?
Yeah.
So use it or lose it. Now, if it's going to stay here for whatever reason, then sometimes the hysterical committee steps in. You ain't taking this off. It's part of the character of the building, and it's got to stay. Does this then need to be fully refurbished and load tested?
Well, if it's there, it should be functional and operational.
Right. So right now, if there's 2 mean stairs inside, sprinkler systems and everything, you need signage on this for 2 people. Signage for the occupants that live in the building say never go outside on this fire escape, ever. So that means that even though you got windows, I need physical grates on the inside of my apartment that stop me from foolishly going out on this fire escape.
No, we wouldn't do that.
Well, use it or lose it.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you wouldn't bar the windows
Yeah.
because we could still put ladders up.
Okay, so then so if they're gonna keep, that's what I'm saying. If they're gonna keep this fire escape, they must load test it and keep it fully functional all the way to the ground. They say, no, we don't want to. Then you say, then you gotta get it removed. So that at no time do my firemen jump on this rickety old thing, or the occupants don't mistakenly think they have another way out.
Yeah.
And if they say, well, we're not decided yet whether or not we're gonna remove this. Say, great, then I want you to block the access from the inside with some sort of grate, a railing of some sort that stops the occupants from getting out the window to a bad fire escape that everybody knows. And you need signage on here that says, that placard up there would say, don't get on the fire escape. A big sign for your guys that when they get here, do not get on the fire escape. And all stories would have that placard on it. Do not unsafe structure. And then if they're gonna fix it in 3 to 5 years, great, but nobody will ever get on it. The tenants are blocked from getting at it. They still get their sunshine, but they're blocked. And your firemen are never gonna get hurt or killed on this thing. With that being the case, let's take this into another case study. This is a building that does need this fire escape. What's your problem here?
It's a little on the short side.
It's a little on the short side. Cantilever got removed.
Definitely needs to be refurbished.
Refurbished, you need a new staircase. Let's take a look at this. This is great when it's this far down. Original and square head bolts. It's riveted or squares?
Oh, it's all square.
It's all square.
And the hinge part is riveted.
Yeah. So you've got something at least 75 years old, right? And it's tying into the building. It properly cemented into the building. What from this side? Ken?
Look, some holes on this side.
So is the connection into the wall suspect now?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Up there in that corner. You see that corner in there?
And even up here, you can see it's pulling and heaving the bricks.
Yep, pulling. That's from a rust jacking or ice jacking. Let's look up now. In a 50 to 75 year life, and they spent some millions of dollars refurbishing this building to get some rents, and they either sold it as condos or as rentals, right? So they spent.
It's rentals.
Okay, so they spent some good money on this building. New windows, right? Does it look like they spent 1 nickel on any one of these treads?
Oh.
Right? So you have, and they probably removed this lower part so that kids wouldn't break in and into the building. So there's several reasons why they do these things, but now the question is, use it or lose it. So every connection is compromised
Oh, yeah.
because they let it rust this far.
Yeah.
The connections into the building, the water's getting into every building. You got rust stains into everywhere that the fire escape is at. There's rust stains indicating that water has gotten in. You know, bricks have spalled because of the amount of ice jacking and rust jacking. And this is typical. We haven't seen one fire escape that you've passed so far.
Oh, no.
So this fire escape, if this was an active fire escape and you needed it, yellow or red?
Oh, this is definitely
This is the red. What would that one be? Yellow or red?
red.
Red. That one way down there, all the ones that we came out of,
Oh, they don't do red.
they'll all be red. So your main thing as you start getting into this, it's not going to be the brightest walkthrough. You have to start getting ready to say, I got yellows and reds. I'm going to find a lot of reds. Let's get those immediately addressed. And the address doesn't mean fix it. The address doesn't mean automatically fix it. It means get it signed. Get it aware so that people are not going to jump on this. So the awareness that it's a red is key. Then you start getting into the second. So let's take this one as an example. If this was an active building and this was used on any building, and the guy says, oh my God, by the time I buy a staircase and do all these things, you know, and he gives you all the runaround of why, and this is the only second means of egress out of any building.
Well, then you have to, you can't occupy this.
Then you, so that's one choice. You can vacate the building till such time that this does come into play, or you can put a fire watch 24/7, right? If it meets your standard.
Yeah, but I still don't think.
I'm going to give you another answer to it though, but you know, that's one, right? Fire watch, vacate the building, and you're going to get an uproar. This guy's the cousin to the mayor or something, you know, you're like, but here's the final. Do you have scaffolding companies in this area? Oh yeah. You think I got room right here for a scaffolding company to come in and create a tower all the way up and pick up this entire fire escape system with a new stair tower? Scaffolding, rented, $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, whatever it may be. Can you put some temporary scaffolding here that is the rise and run is 7-Eleven inside. It's a
Right. Yeah, I mean, if they had that available, yeah.
well, everybody has it available, but this guy's giving you a hard time.
Yeah.
So can you order scaffolding that he's going to pay for anyway?
Yeah.
That gives the occupants a way to get out. Maybe this is a building that's full of, elderly people, or it's not one of those buildings you can readily just vacate. You're like, dude, I'm ordering scaffolding. And they're going to secure the situation until this matter gets resolved. You got a big bill here right now. But in the meantime, while you're dicking around, you're dragging back and forth, I'm ordering a tower put in that you're paying for. And that'll take as long as you want to resolve it. And it ain't going to be much time that I'm going to give you. But now we got a little breathing room, because now I can basically get my people onto the building and into the building, and I can get you people out of the building because they're all going to come out on this window, for example, and that's easily secured with the scaffolding. So scaffolding is your answer. Whenever somebody gives you a hard time, it's a temporary stair to satisfy any means of egress you need.
Yeah.
And they pay.
Yeah, because I mean, it has the proper stairs
and railings and protection.
The toe boards.
So that's what you say when somebody wants to waste time and throw you at the court and throw lawyers at you. You say, I'm going to vacate your building. I'm going to put a fire watch, or I'm going to order scaffolding. And then we got all the time in the world because you're paying $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month for the scaffolding.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. That's a quick answer for needs of egress.
There isn't anything else back that way. That's back to Main Street. Okay, I mean, we can go this way.
Okay. Buildings, right? The firewall, so the separation there. No. So there's two separate walls. So any evidence of maintenance?
Nothing I can see.
It's been rusting for how many years at least? Based on your visual opinion?
Yeah, at least 25.
And then what's this tie-in here? It looks like this guy goes nowhere, but he goes to a roof. Is that allowed? It's called a crossover.
Yeah.
As long as you cross a firewall, you're allowed to use your neighbor.
Yeah.
Is that what he's doing here?
Yeah, it looks like he's going. Although I don't see any steps.
It's a big step up.
Yeah.
Is that fire escape pass inspection?
Oh no.
All exterior steel or wooden stairs. Is this a fire escape? Gary, let's come over here because it's kind of noisy in there.
Yep. Well, by definition.
Okay. Now, does that need to be load tested? Yeah. And does that need to be maintained? On average, wood decks last how long? 15 to 25 years only.
Right.
Fire escapes with abuse 75 to 100 years with the use. So when you make recommendations back to these people, you say, listen, you can put wood back here, but every 25 years I'm going to be bothering you, or go metal over here and be done with it.
Yeah.
Okay? So any other fire escapes? All right, let's go. You have another spot that you think is full of fire escapes that you want me to look at?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
All right. Why do I think I've been here before? I'm having some deja vu.
I don't know.
All right. I've inspected this fire escape before for some reason. So let's start here.
Or one that looks like it.
No. I've been here.
It's like, I've seen you before.
I've seen you before. I know you.
Why are you looking at me like that?
And so let's start here. And let's look at a couple things. First of all, must be structure sound, must be kept painted. You're looking for evidence of maintenance. You're looking for original hardware.
Oh yeah. The wooden.
Yeah, the wooden step. But let's look over here. I thought I saw something as I was walking. Look at this one over here.
Oh yeah.
Look at that. Do you step on that during a fire? Look underneath here. Look underneath here. This is a perfect example right now, Ken.
Yeah.
You got my nice rivet here, right? Nice rivet that is giving you a false reading.
Yeah.
But what do you got on the other side?
Nothing.
Nothing. And this is that thing that I told you about. Those rivets, Ken, are only 3/8 long.
Right.
And as soon as the rust grows far enough away so that it no longer rests on top of that rivet, what do we got here?
It pulls it apart.
An unsupported tread. So this does want to come down. There's nothing on this side. You can see the shaft from this side.
Yeah, I can see
You can see you can see the rivet, but it's an unsupported tread.
Yeah.
You have a fire in this building, your men will run up this thing. They are not going to take time to put up a ladder here. They're going to run up this thing, and then either on the way up or on the way down, or after several stomps. And please look on this way. Look over here and shoot your eyeball straight down. Life safety issue or not?
Oh yeah, I like that.
Okay? See all those treads all the way up? Those are all made to break your legs, break people's spirit. You've got a monstrosity of growth here, patchwork. And somebody already caution taped this thing. That's why for some reason I remember this as an inspection that we got called down here for, and I remember this piece and how it ended here. So, with that being the case, let's take a look at this next one right here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We got wood.
That's funny.
Right?
Yeah.
But here's the problem. I mean, you fight this fire from the inside, all hell breaks loose, you're going to break out. Your men are going to step out onto this wood. And it's rotten wood. How long did it take that wood to totally rot away?
Oh, a long time.
You know what I'm saying? So use it or lose it. But in the meantime, what you got to do is look at all the cement cracking. That's from freeze and thaw. It's called ice jacking or rust jacking. The ice gets in and splits all your brick, or if the water gets in there, feeds the iron grows and does all that. So now we've got severe wall structural crack. So even if the guy wants to do something with this building, but you know what you need on these, aside from the clearing of all this debris, you need signage that says it's not to be used. So you need the red signs or the yellow signs on it. This one needs red signs on it.
Yeah.
You need the same way you have buildings that you're supposed to surround and drown.
Yeah.
Because if this guy had that sign that you guys have that says don't enter this building ever,
Right.
because it's surrounded and drowned, what happens to this guy's insurance? Doesn't even, they cancel the insurance. They don't want buildings that you can't get into.
Right.
So if all of a sudden you start putting signage on these, and that's what I recommend. If they don't want to fix this, then how about signage on here that stops you guys from ever getting on it? You know what I'm saying? So in your awareness program that you're doing in the city, you're just identifying fire escapes that are life safety issues for your men.
And for the occupants.
Some of them don't have occupants. There's no occupants here. And that's going to be the fight. Your guy says, dude, I get no rent. You give all you get tax money from me every year because, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, why should I? And you're like, all right, here we have a guy coming up with stories, but minimally what I'm going to do as a city official, I'm going to get all these fire escapes tagged with signage for my men that says, when you get there, do not get on these fire escapes, surround and drown this building. When you get to this fire escape, you need something quick and on this fire escape that the men can see in a red tag right down here, and a red tag up above. As many red tags as you can put on this whole entire fire escape and put it on safely, it helps your men do what? not get on it. On your pre-plans, as the truck is coming down here, don't they have a sheet that says what are some of the problems with that building?
Oh, yeah.
And shouldn't
we pre-plan most of our buildings?
So shouldn't a pre-plan on a building be that the fire escape is out of service?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Isn't that one of the lines that should be on there?
Oh, yeah. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of the, in fact, I think most of our pre-plans say not to use the fire escapes.
But that's not because it's true. That's because it's the catch-all that basically saves everybody. They say, you know what, in case of fire escapes, don't use the fire escape, okay?
Right.
And I know that applies right here.
Oh, yeah.
That applies right here. But then all of a sudden you get one of your young recruits and he shows up on that one and he doesn't get on it. He goes to the truck to go get a ladder so that he can climb up in a window. You're like, dude, what are you doing? He goes, dude, my captain every day drills us. In case of fire, never use a fire escape. And I don't know if this was a test, man, but I'm not getting on that thing. My captain will chew me out. So that's the problem, you know. They're gonna second guess themselves because they think it's not to use fire escapes ever, regardless of their condition. What we're trying to say is, no, you can use fire escapes, but the ones that are marked dangerous, don't get on them.
Right.
The ones that are marked with a nice white tag, don't save time, man. Just get on these things. Let's go. Because they're good. We've proven they're good through load tests and through refurbishment.
Right.
Let's take a look at this baby over here and see what kind of...
It's a good looking one, eh?
Well, this one has one of those fold-out ladders. Let's see if it's functional. Nope. Frozen. This used to fold into itself. And there's the pin. So this used to go up, and that's how people didn't break into the building. But it's been down so long and it's frozen.
So it looks like it's bolted in place.
Could be the case they could have frozen it, but it is there's a fixed point on the left, and this is a folder. So let's take a look at everything you need. Original hardware.
Oh, yeah.
Any evidence of maintenance?
Oh, not that I can see.
See the nice heavy through bolt?
Yeah.
It's probably got a plate inside. This is one of those that's got a plate inside.
With a brick wall. Yeah.
Yeah, on the other side of the brick wall, it comes all the way through, and it bolts right here. Okay, let's take a look at the treads. Any evidence of rust?
Oh, yeah.
Popped rivets?
Oh, yeah.
Any of these ready to go and drop some of your men's feet?
Oh, looks like somebody tried to weld that one.
Yeah, and they do. And what's the problem with welding? What's the only way to verify a weld for you? Yeah? Anybody gonna x-ray these things?
I don't think so.
What's the second way you want me to prove it? Well, load test it, right? Or if I pop a bolt through it, I mean, obviously if they're clean, if the connection is clean, and I got a welded connection, if I pop a bolt in it, will you be satisfied? Yeah. Redundancy. So let's see how far this goes. It goes up. What do you think about this whole mess up here? Is that safe structurally? Teetering on a single? Yeah, the whole wall is shattered. Usually you need two. Why this guy just put up one? Is it for balancing acts?
I don't know.
Save on some money? Let's look back here. Let's look up there. From down here, Ken. From back here, Gary. Ken, what do you think about any evidence of maintenance? Escape Services. We provide inspections and certifications, repairs, and load tests to remove violations in your area and nationwide. So whether you're an inspector or whether you're somebody, you have your own home, you have your own building, the first thing is the law is very clear. It must be structurally sound and must be kept painted. So is the fire escape painted or is it not painted? And does it have more paint than rust or more rust than paint? So I can just look at this fire escape and say that I have evidence right now that there's more rust than paint on this fire escape. So immediately, if you were to call an inspector out here, the law doesn't allow him to pass this fire escape simply because it has more rust than paint. And structural means that if the fire escape is 50 to 75 years old, when any inspector is looking at it, he's got to see some evidence of maintenance. And maintenance means that I have to see a change in bolts, I have to see a change in rivets, I have to see some new hardware. Because when I go up to a fire escape, I see nothing but original hardware. That hardware is 50 to 75 years old. It's been out in the weather 50 to 75 years, and it's just impossible for not one of those rivets, one of those bolts to be changed in 50 to 75 years. And whenever that occurs, what I have is a fire escape that somebody's been constantly painting, but they've never done anything structurally to it. So now that makes the entire fire escape pretty much suspect. So now I have to be careful as to what I'm looking at to make sure that the structural now, on especially the major structural connections, are in good order. Thank you for watching our video. Please call us today at 800-649-3333 to discuss your fire escape issue with a live inspector or schedule an inspection in your area today.